everybody. Another edition of ATL Prime Sports. Todd Corder here. JJ on the other side of the ATL, and Wayne, our producer in Memphis, Tennessee. Dave Cohen will join us in about 20 minutes or so. We'll talk Georgia State football and basketball with the voice of the Panthers. Just to let you know, you can get a hold of all of us at ATL Prime Sports, Wayne at RWY Jr., JJ at JJ Get You One, and myself at Corder Todd. You can also get a hold of us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and we'll be glad to respond to you. Just already let you guys know, Dave Cohen will be coming on about 20 minutes. We're going to talk some college football. The top six came in this evening for the playoffs. We'll do our pick six, and we'll also talk about the coaching carousel. So it's kind of a college football special Tuesday here on ATL Prime Sports. And let's get it started. Before we do that, guys, I haven't been on with you in a while. I'm glad to hear your voices again.
All right.
It's good. It's good to be back. That's for sure, Todd. Good to have you back on. Lots happen in the college football world, huh?
A lot has happened, and nothing surprises me anymore. So let's just go ahead and get to it. I'm ready to have some fun with you guys. I'm glad to be back on with you, and ready to go ahead and talk some college football, which I think is our favorite subject. So let's do it. The rankings came out this evening. Wow. It really didn't surprise me. I know it didn't surprise you guys at all with the rankings. So what we'll do is Georgia was 1, Michigan was 2, Alabama was 3, Cincinnati 4. Those would be the playoff teams if this was the final poll. Oklahoma State would be 5, and Notre Dame was 6. Let's start with 6 and move to 1 and talk about each team's chances, because honestly, outside these 6, it would be a miracle if anybody else get in. I've heard some folks say that Iowa would have a shot, but there's no way the playoff committee is going to move somebody from 14 or 16 or whatever they are into the top 4. It's never been done. Also, it's never been done. A team with 2 losses has ever made the playoffs. So we'll see if that happens. There's a possibility we'll get that into that shortly. Let's start with number 6. Wow. We'll be talking a little bit more about Brian Kelly later on in the show, but let's just talk about the club now. They're 6th in the playoff rankings, guys. To me, things would have to happen to get them in. Michigan would have to lose because they don't have a game, does Notre Dame. Cincinnati would have to lose since they lost to Cincinnati earlier. Alabama would have to lose. Probably all 3 of those teams would have to lose for Notre Dame to get in. And I'm not even sure if that would be enough. It probably would be, but the odds are long. JJ, that's my take on Notre Dame. We'll go to you, and then we'll go to Wayne, and then we'll go to another team. Go ahead, JJ.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think Notre Dame gets in. I think the conference, the College Football Playoff Committee is going to say, hey, they're not playing on Championship Saturday. I think they'll keep them out. But if enough chaos does happen, they do get the benefit of just sitting there and not playing a team. So I'd say I would lean, it's 50-50. I would lean to the other half of the 50 saying they won't get in. Another reason, the College Football Playoff Commissioner went on ESPN, and I'm blanking on his name right now, just moments ago, and said that he may take into consideration Brian Kelly leaving against Notre Dame in their playoff chances. So that could be eye-opening there if chaos does ensue. What they end up doing in that College Football Playoff Committee room, but I don't think they make it, Todd. I think their strength of schedule is pretty weak, and I don't see Cincinnati losing. Hint, hint, what I'm going for later on in our pick 6. I don't see Georgia getting upset. And honestly, in that case, Georgia beating Alabama kind of helps Notre Dame. But I don't see enough chaos happening. I'm with you, TC. I think they kind of stay at 6. They may move into 5, but that's as high as they get.
Wayne, your thoughts on
Well,
Notre Dame?
Well, I think Notre Dame has an excellent chance of getting in because I've got a feeling that Georgia-Alabama game is going to be a blowout, and Alabama's going to look bad enough that they take them out of the top 4.
Yeah, but Wayne, even if Alabama loses, how does Notre Dame get in? Because Oklahoma State's in front of them if they win, and the other 2 teams win, Cincinnati and Michigan, that would leave Notre Dame out. Are you suggesting another team's going to lose besides Alabama?
Well, I think Oklahoma State's going to have a close game against Baylor, and they're not going to present themselves as strong enough to be in that top 4.
Well, I tell you what, if Oklahoma State wins, and we'll get to them in a minute, the committee's going to have a tough decision because that'll be another win over Baylor, and they'll have a big decision. And JJ, in regards to what you said, considering that Brian Kelly's not coaching the team, that is really a rough way to penalize these kids. It's not about the coaches, to be honest with you, or it's not about a coach who left, a la Brian Kelly. It's about the 85 kids, the scholarship kids are on that team. It's about the walk-ons who made it, and it's about the rest of the kids on that roster. And to me, to penalize Notre Dame for that is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't think you can penalize Notre Dame for that. I think he's just saying in general it may take an account. But
it shouldn't take into account at all. That's ridiculous.
I agree. I don't think it should. I mean, 11-1 record's an 11-1 record. But I think what they're mainly saying is join the conference. They did it last year. Notre Dame got in the playoff with the benefit of the doubt. And they even lost to Clemson in doing so. So remember, folks, the conference championship game is holding a lot of water this weekend, which brings us to our 5th team and what we're all talking about in the Oklahoma State.
Let's go to Oklahoma State. But JJ, Notre Dame has made it before without being in the conference. They can make it again. I'll leave it at that. Oklahoma State, they got a game with Baylor for the Big 12 title. If they happen to win, I'm thinking if Michigan loses, that would get them in. If Cincinnati loses, that would get them in. If one of those teams were to lose, they need one of the teams in front of them to lose. A lot of folks think that Alabama, and I guess we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone because, they're at 3. A lot of folks think that if Alabama makes the game close against Georgia, they'll be in. And to me, if that's the case, that's wrong because that's 2 losses. You didn't win your conference. Oklahoma State will have won their conference, and they have 1 loss. I know the conference is not as good as the SEC, but you got to stick Oklahoma State in there. To me, I wholeheartedly disagree with that. Even if Alabama gets blown out, no question they're out. But if the game's close and they lose, they had their chance. They're done. They had their shot. That would be my opinion. You'd make Oklahoma State up. We'll just kill Alabama and Oklahoma State with 2 birds with 1 stone. JJ, what do you think about that?
Yeah, 2 birds, 1 stone, moving quickly through this. If Oklahoma State wins, Alabama loses, Oklahoma State's in the college football playoff. Mike Gundy, congratulations, hats off. He's done a heck of a job out there in Stillwater, and Boone Pickens Stadium is a beautiful place to play. I like Mike Gundy, and again, I may be foreshadowing here to get in that college football playoff.
Wayne, what about you in Oklahoma State? You just mentioned earlier, even if they win, you don't think they would get in. You think Notre Dame would get over them. I do not. What is it for you that would have to put Oklahoma State over the hump to get in? Because they're right there on the doorstep.
They'd have to blow out Baylor, which I don't think is going to happen.
Just even if they win and one of those teams in front loses. Now, even Georgia. I mean, we can talk about their playoff chances right now. Let's just kill that too, because if Georgia loses, JJ, Oklahoma State wins. They say no matter if Georgia gets blown out or not, they're in. I think if they get blown out by Alabama, they'll probably still be in, but they shouldn't be in because it's lasting impressions for me. But if they keep the game close, that's what's so silly about college football and all of this, in my opinion, then they'll stay in because they'll only have one loss, and they'll play in the toughest conference in America, and that will get them in. Your thoughts on that, JJ, and then Wayne?
Georgia's in, regardless. If they lose by 24 points to Alabama on Saturday afternoon, which I don't think will happen, I think they're in. Their body of work is better than anybody else in the country. They have more ranked wins than anybody else in the country. So if you want to go in that aspect, yeah, I do think they're a better football team than Oklahoma State, even if they get blown out by Alabama. So I think Georgia's in regardless. I think Oklahoma State, they have a really good path because if Georgia is as dominant as everybody thinks they are, and it's as big of a favorites as everybody thinks they are, Oklahoma State's is as good as in, as long as they take care of business against Baylor. But it's not so fast because Baylor's a good football team. Aranda's got them playing extremely well. They had the best turnaround in all of college football from last year to this year. They're playing great, and I'm not going to count the Bears out, but I do think Gundy gets the job done and they get in the playoffs. I think if Georgia wins versus Alabama, Oklahoma State's in. And again, we go back to Alabama. If they beat Georgia, look at their body of work. Clemson's now ranked. They've won 9 games. Arkansas's ranked. Georgia destroyed both teams. It wasn't pretty against Clemson, but I'd love to see Georgia play Clemson now, as I bet you they'd be just as dominant now as they were against Arkansas or against Florida in the end of the first half there. So I think Georgia's body of work gets them in regardless.
It's not only when you play them, it's not only who you play, but when you play them. And Wayne, back to it. Your thoughts on Georgia and with this Oklahoma State tying it up here. If Georgia were to get blown out, are they still in your mind, or would you keep them in?
Well, the chances of Georgia getting blown out are so slim that it's not even something I'm considering.
Well, I tell you what, that's why you can produce the show. You can say whatever you want. And here's the thing. The only way they get blown out probably is if they just absolutely fall on their face and turn it over a half dozen times.
They'd have to play the worst game ever.
Whatever it is. I think that's the only way they do get blown out. I don't see them getting blown out at all, but it is possible. Let's go to number 4, Cincinnati. They're at 4. They used to be at 3. One point, I thought they were going to get to 2. They didn't. They're undefeated. Everybody in the world agrees they must win in order to get in, and they must beat Houston in the AAC Conference Championship game. And if they do, I don't think there's any – golly, it would be really sad. I've heard folks say that Oklahoma State, if they blow out Baylor and Cincinnati has a close game against Houston, that Oklahoma State would hump them. If Alabama kept Georgia close, even and lost, and if Michigan won, to me the scenarios are endless. That was one of them I threw out there. To me, Cincinnati wins. They're in, JJ.
Yeah, Cincinnati, you win, you're in. I don't even care if it's by 1 point. I think, again, their body of work. And I told you, Todd, I told everybody on this program, an 11-1 Notre Dame program is going to look good on a resume. Guess what? That lone loss to Cincinnati. The Bearcats dominated them in South Bend. They win. They are in the college football playoffs. They don't need any help. They got that coveted number 4 spot. And if Alabama loses, they could move up. And if everything looks right, they could play Michigan in the college football playoffs, which would lead us into our next team. But we'll get Wayne's opinion first. But I think a win, Cincinnati, is in.
Well, I agree with you, JJ. Cincinnati wins. I think they're in, but I've heard scenarios that would still keep them out, which to me would just it would put the committee in a huge pickle. Wayne, your thoughts on Cincinnati?
Well, Cincinnati is going to win that game, and the reason I feel like they're going to win it is because guess where they're playing that game? They're
At
playing it in
home.
the famous Nippert Stadium, which I think has been in that same location for, I guess, since football was invented.
You know what? I'm pulling for Cincinnati to win. It will be an awesome story to get a group of 5 team in there and get a team from the AAC. Let's go to Michigan. It's pretty simple, guys. We all probably agree on this. They win, they're in. They lose, they're out. Iowa wins, they're still not in. JJ, you agree with that?
Yeah, Michigan, again, you win, you're in. Corum, Haskins, they should have good days. The last time these two teams played, it was not an offensive showdown. It was 10-3 in 2019. But I do expect Hutchinson, Ojabo to get after the quarterback, make a couple plays, maybe even get a strip sack in there. Michigan plays field position game. They take advantage. I do see Michigan win. They are in. Lose and chaos happens, but win and Michigan's in.
Yeah.
You probably agree with that too, huh, Wayne?
Well, yeah, Michigan needs to win this game, but I tell you, the one team that holds the keys to this entire scenario, in my opinion, is Iowa. And this particular game is going to be played in Indianapolis in the field house. Because to me, Lucas Oil Stadium looks like a gigantic field house.
Well, it's a unique place to play, and the Big Ten is very happy having its championship game there. It'll be the first time that Michigan is in the Big Ten championship game. Iowa, first time, and they've been in it since, I want to say it was 15 when they played Michigan State, 15 or 14. It could have been 14. Ohio State won at 14, so it had to be 15. 15, and Iowa needed a goal line stand to win it, which would have gotten them in the playoff. Instead, Michigan State scored the touchdown. They got in the playoff. They got beat by Alabama in the semifinal, 38-0, and that's history. But for Michigan to get in, they've got to win. And guess what? Michigan and Iowa, they haven't won. Their last conference championship in the Big Ten was 0-4 for each of them, and they shared it. So anyhow, Dave Cohen, guys, will not be able to join us. It looks like his son's high school basketball game went way longer than expected, so he will join us next week. Anyhow, let's go ahead and go on to our next topic anyway, and that is the coaching carousel that keeps spinning and spinning. And, you know, everybody acts like they're stunned, guys, over all these coaching moves. I'm not stunned over any of it. I'm just not. The reason I'm not is because of two words, the money. It always comes down to the money. Money motivates players. It motivates coaches. And that's why we have all these changes, is because of the money. Speaking of the money, let's go to Brian Kelly. Nah, we'll leave that one. Speak of the more money, let's go ahead and go to the first one.
Lincoln Riley.
Let's talk about Lincoln Riley. Thank you, JJ. I was catching my breath here. I'm under the weather. Lincoln Riley, stunning Oklahoma University. They asked him in the press conference. It was on Sunday, I believe. No, Saturday. They asked him, "Are you going to LSU? Are you leaving Oklahoma and going to LSU?" And he said, "No." Guess what? He was telling the truth. Halfway, he was leaving Oklahoma. He's just going to USC. He's going there for $11 mil a year, a house, private plane for the family. The place paid off in Oklahoma. Actually, USC is buying his house in Oklahoma. So, I mean, what a deal. And I don't blame him one bit. Yes, it hurts the players, but the players can move around thanks to NIL. And thanks to the transfer portal, they get the NIL now. So there's freedom all over college football. Bob Stoops will be the intern head coach. And you know what? This Lincoln Riley move to me at USC was about money. It was about control. It was about he took Oklahoma as far as he could take them. And now with a new opportunity and an easier path to get to the playoff in the Pac-12. And me, in terms of the SEC, I hate that people are saying he's running scared of the SEC. I don't think it has anything to do with that. I think it has to do with the money, the power, the brand that USC is, JJ.
Yeah, it has everything to do with what do you do for me now? Right now, Oklahoma isn't getting him in the college football playoffs. The Big 12 isn't getting him in the college football playoffs. Remember, right now, it's still a 4-year deal. We're still got to wait possibly 4 more years for them to cross over to the SEC. But also, I think it comes down to this, guys. Lincoln Riley, born and raised in small town Texas, Lubbock, Texas, goes to Norman, Oklahoma. He's never really experienced a big city like LA. Why not? You take a premier location in Los Angeles, California. You take a premier coaching job in Southern Cal. The brand, the logo, the recruiting grounds. Look, the number 2 quarterback in the country who was committed to Oklahoma, decommitted and followed Lincoln Riley to Southern Cal. It's already happening. Lincoln Riley's already recruiting, and he hasn't even touched down hardly in Southern Cal, but for a couple days. So I think this was a lateral, not necessarily a lateral move, but in terms of name brand, yeah, it's a lateral move. But in terms of money, it's a raise. It's a pay grade. And look, you can get USC back to prominence facing Mario Cristobal and the Pac-12. And you, like you said, Todd, I don't think he ran from the SEC. I don't think he wanted any part to do with the SEC in the get-go. I don't think he wanted. I think he liked where he was in Norman in the Big 12 and didn't want to go there. I don't think not saying he's running from the competition. Just saying I don't know if he ever wanted to take part in it. I think he liked where he was in the Big 12.
Well, and that 5-star quarterback Malachi Nelson is the one that's following Lincoln Riley to USC. You're right. One of the top recruits in the country. And you know what? I mean, nothing surprises me. Let's go to our other one. We're only going to do 2 because that's all the time we have. We definitely have to do, excuse me, sorry, this illness is bothering me. Brian Kelly will go from Notre Dame to Louisiana State University on a $9.5 million deal a year. And
Calling Baton Rouge.
Right, going to Baton Rouge. And this comes down to this. Brian Kelly, same thing. He took Notre Dame as far as he could take them. 2 playoff appearances in the semifinals, 1 BCS National Championship game appearance. He took him as far as he could. He's 60 years old. The money is incredible, and he gets to go to Louisiana State, where the last 3 coaches named Saban,
Miles. Les Miles.
Les Miles, and obviously
Coach Ed Orgeron.
Coach Orgeron, thank you. I'm telling you, illness is messing me up. Orgeron, they all won the national championship. So now he could be 4 for 4 if he can do it. There are obstacles in his way. LSU does have issues. But, you know, the timing, everybody, of course, the media mob, criticized him because he left the players hanging, and that was the narrative, and this was bad timing. Look, because they had a shot at the playoff. Their shot at the playoff is slim. And look, the players, they leave. They leave before the start of the season. Now coaches are doing it. I don't blame Brian Kelly at all. It was too good of an opportunity for him at his stage of his life. And LSU, if you win, you can win it all. That's been proven.
Yeah, I like the move. Again, it's brand name move to brand name move. It's a new type of college football. Coaches are moving, players are moving, as you've mentioned. 15, 20 years ago, you would never have thought a team that's this close to the college football playoff / national championship, you'd see a coach just take off and run, but you're seeing two of them do it. It's just a new type of football. It's a new era. Name, image, likeness is changing things. And I think it's a great move for Brian Kelly. You mentioned it. He's 60 years old. He's done everything he could possibly do at Notre Dame. And the biggest thing is here, you come down to Louisiana State University, where football is everything. It's not everything at Notre Dame. They got a good basketball program. They had several great ladies sports programs. So at LSU, football puts the food on the table for the university. That's what he wanted. He wanted everything. He wanted that community to be at every game, supporting him, hands in, hands out. He can yell at the players. Notre Dame's not going to come down and say, LSU's not going to come down to the sideline and say, hey, Brian, take it a little easy. It's a heavy Catholic community down there. So Catholic guy comes down to a Catholic community. Guys, the stars are aligning. It doesn't matter which way you look at it. This is a great move. And Brian Kelly left Notre Dame in pretty darn good shape. That defensive coordinator, Marcus Freeman, may just take over, or he could follow him down to Baton Rouge, which would really kind of put Notre Dame behind the eight ball. But I think Notre Dame will be just fine, folks. They'll find themselves a coach, and they'll still be Notre Dame.
And think about it. If Marcus Freeman does follow him down there and he doesn't get the Notre Dame job, two names came to mind. One of them was Urban Meyer. He already nixed that. He said he's not leaving the NFL for any college job. Don't hold your breath, but we'll have to take him at his word. And number two, Luke Fickell. And I was talking to folks that I know down in Cincinnati pretty well, and they happen to their kids happen to go to the same school that Luke Fickell's kids go to. They don't think that Luke Fickell will leave Cincinnati for Notre Dame. We'll see. That'll be interesting. We'll have to find out. And also, another thing's interesting. A lot of people have been, banging on Brian Kelly's personality, that he won't be able to take the media from the SEC. All I got to say is we'll find out. A couple other headlines real quick, guys. Yes, Stoops agreed on an extension, and Kentucky through 27. Virginia Tech names Penn State's Pry as head coach, and Rich Rodriguez will be the coach at Jacksonville State, and they'll be going to D1 in 2023. That'll take care of the some of the remaining headlines there for college football. Let's go to the Pick Six. And JJ, take it away.
Let's go, folks. It is the ATL Prime Sports Pick Six, where we pick normally 3 and 3, but this week we're doing all 6 conference championship games, the 6 major ones in our opinion. Monday spreads. Let's go over the standings. I'm in first place at 36-41 in our first push last week, so I'm 36-41-1. Wayne is 32-45-1, and TC is one game behind at 31-46-1. Let's go ahead and get into it, folks. Remember, we do Monday spreads. This is the Pac-12 championship game. Number 10, Oregon, 10-2, versus number 17, Utah, at 9-3. Utah is 2.5-point favorites this time around. Over-unders 59.5 in that game. I'll break it down. We'll go TC, then we'll go Wayne. Look, Oregon got roasted in the first meeting a couple weeks ago, but the mistakes that they made can be fixed. Oregon has to get Utah off the field on third down. Look, Utah went 11 of 14 last time they played. Special teams errors, too. Oregon gave up a punt return right before the half that basically put the game out of reach at 28-0. I think they fixed their special team errors. I think they hold Utah under 200 yards on the ground this time. I'm calling Oregon again. Oregon in the points. I'm going with Cristobal again. Wayne, then TC. Or TC, then Wayne. It doesn't matter.
No, go ahead, Wayne. You go second. I'll go last every time.
Okay, I'm taking Utah to cover.
All right, so you got Utah to win it, to cover. They're a 2.5-point favorite. Wow, to me, this is the toughest game to pick of all of them, and I don't even think it's close. Golly, it's really hard to beat a team twice a year. Utah doesn't get home field advantage, though, this time, correct, JJ?
Correct, neutral site.
neutral site.
Levi Stadium in San Francisco.
Yeah, that's the reason why I'm picking Oregon. It won't be at Utah. It's hard to beat a team twice. I think the Ducks get the job done, and I'm definitely taking Oregon. Go ahead for the next one.
Big 12 championship game played in Jerry World. Number 9 Baylor, they're 10-2 versus number 5 Oklahoma, 11-1. Oklahoma State's 5-point favorites. Over under in that game's 46 and a hook. First time this game has been played since it was brought back. Remember, it went on a hiatus there for a little bit. First time since it was brought back, but this game does not include Oklahoma. I thought that was pretty interesting. The Cowboys were able to hold the Bears running back duo of Smith and Ebner to 97 yards in the first meeting. Oklahoma State linebacker Malcolm Rodriguez, I think, has a big part in that role again. He's an all Big 12 linebacker, 6th in the conference in tackles for loss. There's my pick. I said it earlier in the show. I'm going with the mullet. Cowboys cover.
All right. I am taking the Bears over the Cowboys. So I'm taking Baylor in the points.
You know what? He's trying to catch you, JJ. That's what he's trying to do. That's his strategy. He's trying to catch you. He's really not thinking who they're going to win. He's taking the opposite of you. And you know what? I'm not going to do that because I can fall further behind, and I'm already in last, so I'm just picking who I think is going to win. I think Oklahoma State wins the game. It's in Dallas, but I do not think they'll cover. 5 points is a lot in this game, so I'll take the Bears. I believe what is it, Mike Gundy? I'm 40. I'm a man. He wins, but Baylor covers. Next.
Next is the bell of the ball of the weekend right here in Atlanta, Georgia at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. The SEC championship game pits number 1 Georgia 12-0 versus number 3 Alabama at 11-1. UGA comes in at 6.5-point favorites. The over/under in that game was a little high for me at 50 and a hook. This game will mark the 4th time these two teams have met as top 10 teams since 2018. Key stat here, Alabama gave up 7 sacks versus Auburn and had 17 plays for 0 or negative yardage in that game. That doesn't add up for a win in any book, in my opinion. UGA's defense is the best in the country. The first time since 1979 that they've held all 12 opponents to 17 points or less. Historic defense. Bama's offense is historic, but I think the dog bites a little bit harder. Dogs by double digits.
Yeah, I'm taking the dogs to cover myself. The real dogs, the big dogs.
Well, the big dog for me is number 99, Jordan Davis. I can't talk about this guy enough. The defensive tackle who deserves Heisman consideration. But man, 6.5. I think Georgia wins the game. But man, Alabama, you can't get rid of them. You really can't. I think Georgia wins the game, but I only think they win it. Oh, yeah, they'll win it by 7. I got them covering, but barely. Georgia's just too strong up front on the O-line and D-line for me, and they're going to wear Alabama down. But you know what? Nick Saban, they'll come up with some trick plays. They'll do anything they can to try to pull all the stops out because they know they at least need to keep it close and win it to get in the playoff. They would just rather win it and leave no doubt. But I think Georgia wins it, but only 7. So I got the dogs by a razor-thin margin.
The 4th game of the night is going to be the Michigan Wolverines at 11-1, the number 13 Iowa Hawkeyes at 10-2 for the Big Ten championship game. Michigan's 10.5-point favorites. Over/under in this one is 43 and a hook. Can Iowa stop Haskins and Corum? 5 TDs for Haskins last week but the Hawkeyes only allow 3 yards per carry in the Big Ten. Tells me Iowa does have a shot if they can stop these two, but I don't think that's happening. I also think Ajabo and Hutchinson go off again, causing a strip sack turnover. I'm calling it right now. Hutchinson or Ajabo, maybe even both of them, have a huge play that turns the game over. Michigan covers, as they have all year. They're 10-2 against the spread. Michigan by 12.
That stat stunned me. Wayne, go ahead.
I'm taking Iowa and the points.
Yeah. See, Wayne, this is all this is, JJ. He knows what he needs to do to catch you. Just go the opposite as you. I love it. I love it. I love the strategy. But, JJ, I think Michigan wins by 12. They barely cover. Aiden Hutchinson, here's the stunner for you. Not only does he become the star player on defense, that's not the stunner. I think he wins the Heisman Trophy because of this game. I'll say why real quick. Corum and Stroud are not playing. Ole Miss and Ohio State. Bryce, he's going to play, but he's going to struggle against that Georgia defense. K9 for Michigan State. Kenneth Walker, he's not playing. He's sitting out. Anderson and Notre Dame or Alabama, he'll have a good game, but it won't be enough. Jordan Davis is a DT. They don't get the stats. Aiden Hutchinson has a mammoth game, and not only does Michigan win by 12, but Aiden Hutchinson does the same thing that Charles Woodson did in '97, win the Heisman Trophy as a defensive player. How about that?
Bringing us to our next game, number 15, Pittsburgh, 10-2 versus number 16, Wake Forest, 10-2. Pitt's 3-point favorites, over under the highest of the weekend at 72.5. This is the ACC championship game. Wake Forest quarterback Sam Hartman's a top 10 quarterback statistically, and so is the counterpart, Kenny Pickett. This guy has eclipsed 4,000 yards passing and 40 touchdowns in a season in college football is unbelievable. He's tied for first in that category with the only Bryce Young. The only Bryce Young. Look, I see Pittsburgh winning this game. They force a turnover late. Here's the deal. Hartman has thrown 10 picks. I think Pittsburgh will intercept Hartman late in the game, and it may cover. That might be the bet of the weekend is the over, because I think both these teams are going to score 35, 40 points. But I'm going to take Pittsburgh. They get a late turnover off of Hartman. The Panthers win the ACC.
Yeah, I'm taking Pittsburgh to cover, but I'm also extremely thrilled that Clemson in North Carolina can stuff it.
You know what? I apologize for I missed out on Pickett. I really apologize. He's got a shot at the Heisman. The problem is that Pittsburgh's not going to a playoff. They are in a conference championship game in the ACC, but the ACC is not the Big Ten. He's going to have big numbers this game. Pitt's going to cover. They'll win by 6. So I've got Pittsburgh. Actually, he could finish second in the Heisman and come on and move up the ladder too. But I still got Aiden Hutchinson. I'm just sorry I forgot to talk about Pitt. Pickett, excuse me. Pitt wins it by 6.
Our last game of the ATL Prime Sports Pick 6. And folks, if you like these videos, give us a like, give us a thumbs up, and please subscribe. It is the AC championship game. Number 4 Cincinnati, the second unbeaten team in the country, coming in at 12-0, versus number 21 Houston at 11-1. Cincinnati is a big favorite, 10.5 points, which I thought was surprising. Over under in that game is 54. Look, Cincinnati's got a top 5 scoring defense in the country, coming in around 16.5 points a game they're giving up. They're a top 10 offense as well. Desmond Ritter's a really good quarterback. He ate Georgia up last year. Bearcats cover. I just think they're too good. I think they're going to get more motivated than they've been all season, as motivated as they were in South Bend. I think they come out, they play on all cylinders, and you see the best Cincinnati team you've seen all season. I think Cincinnati really pounds Houston, really impresses the voters, and says you can't leave us out. Cincinnati by 17.
Yeah, I'm taking Cincinnati to blow this game out. This is going to be way more than 10. Cincinnati's going to cover and then some. And I think it's a shame that the Cincinnati player hadn't been mentioned as the Heisman, but, maybe it's because he's in that
Desmond
conference.
Ridder. Hey, yeah, you know what, Wayne? I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot about him, too. He's a Heisman candidate. He won't win the Heisman, but he deserves consideration. This year, to me, though, is the year of the defensive player. That's why I think Hutchinson's going to win it and stun everybody. But to go to this game, I think Cincinnati covers it, too. They're motivated for all the reasons JJ just said. They see the prize in front of them. They're at home, and I know Wayne hates Houston, being a Memphis guy. Bearcats and Ridder cover, and Luke Fickell takes Cincinnati to the playoff, and what a wonderful ride and story it is. Guys, that's the end of the show. I really appreciate you guys hanging in there tonight. Went a little longer than we thought, but that's okay. I know we all had a lot of fun, and that's all that counts. We'll do another show later on during the week. We're going to be live on Blog Talk Radio on Mondays now at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can listen to the show starting this coming Monday, 1-347-205-9631, www.blogtalkradio.com. And we may even take some callers. And we may change a little bit of the format, take a couple of callers during the show, and we'll be talking some college football next Monday. Rest assured at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That'll do it. I'm Todd Corder for JJ on the other side of the ATL, and for Wayne, our producer in Memphis. You guys have a great week, everybody.
Go Dogs. Get you one.